Hey Sagittarius, happy new moon in Cancer. So this is a forecast taking us on the journey between the new moon in Cancer right the way through to the full moon in the sign of Capricorn, which is really quite heavy, I have to say. Now, I just want to quickly tell you a little bit about each of these moons, because this new moon, which ordinarily would bring a sense of peace and ease and comfort and this desire to kind of snuggle in with your loved ones. This is, I think, underpinned by this sense of truth bubbles, this sense of knowing kind of bubbling up underneath. And as it comes up for air, it's creating little moments of chaos. I think there are these really interesting moments where we are finding peace, but also needing to deal with upcoming truth that might be a little shocking. So it feels like a bit more like a full moon, I think, than a new moon. But that desire for peace and safety is absolutely strong. The full moon, by comparison, also feels very full moony, and FYI. That's coming up on the 10th of July, and it is inviting us to work even harder, as if we ever need to be reminded of that. It's testing our resiliency. You know, it's in both the sun and the moon are in a T-square with Chiron, the wounded healer. And so that can make us feel a little bit unsteady, a little bit unsure of ourselves, maybe a little bit vulnerable. But here's the big noise in between these two particular moons. We've got Uranus that is leaving the sign of Taurus, where he's been since 2018. He went in 2018, he came back out, then went back in 2019. But since then, he's been in the sign of Taurus, and he's getting ready to move on the 7th of July. Now, you might be saying, so what? Big deal. But he moves every 7 years. And wherever Uranus goes, he is creating a new sense of truth, liberty, freedom. And yet they all come with a little bit of a cost, you know, like the truth, the freedom, the liberty, the independence, the eccentricity. It all comes with a sense of disruption to carefully laid plans. And so Uranus's energy is going to be upending all of those things that have been laid down, laid to rest, and said, oh, yes, that's done, that's dusted, that's completely exactly as it is. And then Uranus comes in and kind of digs it up and brings it all up to our conscious mind. And so one of the things I'm going to be looking at in this forecast for you is, well, actually, I've got 3 questions, because Uranus is going to be moving into Gemini, and he's going to be there on and off. He'll be there permanently since from April 2026, but he's going to be there until 2032. And so in the area of your chart that he's going into, he is going to be, he's going to be opening up a lot of things that are being carefully closed down. A bit like a fart in a spacesuit, you know. He's going to be opening things up that maybe you just don't want him to go. You don't want him to go there. So I've got 3 questions that I'm going to hopefully answer throughout this forecast. And the first one is, how are you shattering, breaking all those limits around you, those things that feel a little bit tight, a little bit stiff? How are you breaking through those at the moment? How are you making empowered choices that are really working with the astrological times? And how are you building foundations for your beautiful future? I think that's really important to focus on. Now, these particular forecasts are done with a Western tropical whole sign model. What I mean by that is you have 1 sign per house. There are 12 signs. There are 12 houses in a birth chart, and I will be using that model. But if you know a bit about astrology, and I'm guessing you do, because most people that watch this channel have a really good knowledge, if you use Placidus when you're looking at your chart, you might find that my forecasts don't quite fit your model. And so what I recommend you do is that you listen to your ascendant sign and then also listen to the sign after. So for instance, if your ascendant is in the sign of Sagittarius, also listen to Capricorn too, because in your first house, in your Placidus first house, most likely you've got Sagittarius in there and also Capricorn. So that would give you a really good blended view of what's coming up for you in the next 2 weeks. Some people also listen to their sun sign too. So, you know, there could be potentially 3 different ways that you could be playing with this energy. If you're new to this channel, my name's Louisa, by the way, Louisa Tanner Munson, and welcome. So what I'm going to do is just show you a few things that could support you during this time as well. So I'm also releasing an all signs forecast for the same period of time as this forecast, but it's much, much deeper. I didn't want to put it into this one. I don't want to make it too long. So it's there if you need it. I've also recently released something about Jupiter going into Cancer with all sign forecasts, which could be helpful to you. There is a new moon in Cancer video called, it's got 2 Yods on the thumbnail. And also, if you want to investigate Uranus in your birth chart, I've got a specific dedicated Uranus playlist. And so you could listen to where Uranus is in your birth chart and also get a forecast about where he is right now in comparison to your chart. So hopefully that could also help and inspire you as well. I'm going to be looking at 2 particular charts with this forecast, the new moon and the full moon chart. But before I bring those up, I just want to say hello and thank you to everybody who supports this channel, because you make it possible for me to do the work that I love to do. I really love doing this. So thank you. I am full of gratitude. Thank you so much. So let's have a look at these positions then. So this is indeed the first house, and this is where Sagittarius is. And so I just want to have a look at the position of the new moon and then the position of the full moon. See, in this 2-week period, the moon is going to go from here right the way around to here, and then it's going to be in opposition to the sun. You'll also notice that Mercury has changed signs from Cancer into Leo. That Venus and Uranus are also moving from Taurus and into Gemini. So if I go back, you'll see them all move. Ta-da! Isn't that cool? And so this particular new moon is occurring in the 8th house of your chart. Now, the 8th house is, I described it in an earlier reading as a bit like a landmine, and I'm going to maintain that description because it does feel like you want to, there's almost eggshells around it warning you you're getting close to a sensitive topic. But the 8th house is a place where things get hidden and where things get a little bit subdued. And you kind of walk ever so carefully over this information and this place. You know, the 8th house is about your family relationships, you know, so like the 4th house is very much about your family, but the 8th house is the psychology that exists between you and your family members and you and your partner, you and your children. This is like the psychology that goes on. See, this part of your chart here is about you, and this is about your partner. This is about how you value how you value yourself and also the money coming in. This is your partner, how they value you. And also the money that comes in from them. And this is also about your family's money and how they value you. So there's this great big area of judgment and values. And so the 8th house, that's why it's quite treacherous. It brings in so much psychological stuff. If there's something ancestral between you and your family members, or if there's something ancestral between your partner and his or her family members, that could affect you, like that all comes up in the 8th house. Money issues, inheritance, shares, bonds, trades, taxes, every kind of financial tool that we might have and we might have invested in, that is all an 8th house thing. All our loans are there as well. So yeah, with the new moon coming in here, there is a new possibility for your financial relationship, that you might clear up your finances a bit more. You might sort out your taxes, for instance, if you're not up to date. The new moon in this part of the chart is also about clearing misunderstandings between you and other family members, maybe ancestral stuff. I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because whilst you can be responsible for where you are in life right now, you can't force other people to get into that space with you. And so I think this is why the 8th house can sometimes be a little bit difficult and sometimes a bit disappointing, you know, because if you're ready to move forwards and work things out, but your family members or your partner are sort of blocking you from going further, then there's not much you can do about it. And I think that's where some of the tension comes from. This is also a sexual house, because obviously when you value the person that you're with, you know, intimacy definitely occurs. It's definitely a place of trust and trusting each other a lot more. Now, you know, with Jupiter coming into this part of your chart, he's really emphasizing, really truly emphasizing that there's an opening. There's a sense of hope and possibility for a deeper reconciliation, a deeper level of trust between you and the people that matter the most in your life, even in those difficult relationships that you've, you know, like struggled with. Jupiter's going to be here for quite a long time. He's going to be working through these relationships, and the same for your partner as well, because your partner really shows up here. And so don't be surprised if miracles occur, and that a lot of family stuff comes up during this time. Now, with the new moon here, it's also sowing a seed for something new, a new possibility. And so I think this is really quite helpful. This is really going to create a sense of openness and possibility, but also expectation. You're going to be expecting something to come about. Now, Jupiter is also quite spiritual, and he, in this 8th house, he can, I think he can show where we sometimes expand out of our bodies. And so death and dying is a bit of a theme here. And so you may well have this kind of not near-death experience, but almost an out-of-body experience. If you're having a sort of changing consciousness that's coming up quite a lot right now, then this new moon in the conjunction to Jupiter could really enhance that, and help you with your kind of spiritual understandings. It starts off as a problem with your psychology, and your relationships, but actually where it could lead you could be to really come out of the prison of it all and to just absolutely break free. So I think this is a very exciting opportunity. Now, when we go to the full moon, the full moon comes over here in the 2nd house. This is about your own money and your own relationship to yourself. So it's all very well and good that things can change in terms of your relationships with other people and that trust can be built. But then at the time of the full moon, you're really encouraged to come back into yourself and to recognize how you can build yourself up, how you can come into trust with yourself, how you can value yourself more. Now, this is also very much about your earnings as well and your business. And of course, full moons tend to really raise the tempo. So you may well feel a little bit overwhelmed at this time, as most people do with the full moon. But given this is in the sign of Capricorn, which is really hardworking, and that there is this very tough T-square between the moon, the sun, and Chiron down here, you may well be a little bit distracted. So it may feel like there's a lot of work on and you're battling through it. And because of your self-esteem, and because maybe you're a little bit under par, maybe you're a bit tired because there's been this great big emotional workout recently, you might just be, oh God, like feeling really done in. And what I really recommend is around the time of the full moon that you take some time for yourself, really, truly. Maybe get some, like, ahead of time, really between the 30th and the 3rd. This is quite a quiet time when you can get a lot of things done that you need to get done. It's also a quiet time when, if you work with customers or, according to your business, when you could actually maybe change the dates, like the due dates of things, or work with your existing clients and your boss in a new way. My suggestion would be that from the 4th to the 10th, that would be a really good time for you to take more of a back seat, and to also come into a time where you're kind of scripting your future, really coming into I don't know. I haven't recommended this for everyone, by the way. And it's not common that I would recommend, someone with Sagittarius energy to kind of take it a bit slow, because, on the whole, you're so upbeat, But yeah, I think around the time of this full moon, you might be a little bit overwhelmed, and it's time to kind of prepare yourself a little bit, move your work around a little bit to create some space for yourself, so you've got some reflection time. This new moon in Cancer, I haven't already said this, but Jupiter is your ruling planet, so everywhere he goes is important. And so when he's involved in one of these new moons, even though technically he's so close to the sun, you might not feel him, I think he's still in an elevated position because he's exalted in the sign of Cancer. So this is a huge thing. He's just changed signs. And then there's a new moon really emphasizing this. So take some time to adapt. If the changes that are going on for your partner or within your family, you might find that there's extra responsibilities, extra visits, extra things you have to do. And every one of those things can knock us back a little bit, can tire us out. I think that's why, people recommend when you have a family visit, that you keep it kind of short, no more than 3 days, you give yourself plenty of time so that you can recover. And actually, I do think this time here is going to be really fascinating. This is going to bring about some change. So again, the more time you've got to mull things over, I think the better things will be. So let me tell you about this last period of time between the 4th and the 10th, because this is pretty significant, the position of where Uranus is going. He's going into your 7th house. The 7th house is one of the angular houses. This is about you. This is about your partner and everyone else that you come into connection with. So Uranus is coming in here, and Uranus, can be a little bit irresponsible. He's very changeable. His energy is all about free loving, free living, very much about upliftment and new energy, very vibrational. This could be a really new, sudden partner coming into your world. Uranus coming into the 7th house, if you're single, could be really generating something quite exciting for you. It also can show the kinds of people coming to you as well. So for instance, I don't know what business you're in or what it is you do, but with Uranus coming in, you may well find that you suddenly find yourself in a group of like-minded people who are all into upliftment, or all into vibration, all into truth, all into freedom and liberty and sovereignty. I don't know, but these are all very big themes for him. And of course, if more people like that come into your world, what kind of result do you think that's likely to have? It's going to open you up. And it's not as if people with Sagittarius rising need opening up that much. They are already really quite gung-ho and quite adventurous, and have an appetite for going away and diving into new cultures and new subjects and things like that. So this is really, I think, helping you become more like yourself, even more like yourself. However, there is a little possible negation here, and that would be, Uranus coming in, in existing partnerships, you might find that your partner becomes a lot more uncontrollable, a lot more decisive and rebellious. So you might find that there are rebellious people coming into your world, or some upsetting people. And so I do think it's important to observe the changes in you and around you. And I think anywhere where you can kind of let people off, anywhere where you can just be kind of a lot more patient, a lot more mindful that the people that you usually love and appreciate, they're going through big changes. Astrologically, from your perspective, it appears that they're going through massive changes, and they're needing to cut free. They're needing to feel as open and as receptive and as free as they can be. And of course, that's difficult if you're trying to manage relationships with people. And so, of course, the antidote to that is, well, how can you be more free? How can you be a lot more into your own space, your own independence, and your own inner rebellion? I know from my own experience of what this has been like. I've lived through this because my ascendant's in the sign of Scorpio. So I know a lot about this theme. And it does come good. And it has been good. It also coincided with a lot of astrological people finding me and relating to me. So it really helps you come out into, this is the other thing I would say is, and this is a lovely question that I got from Access Consciousness, which I really adore their line of questioning and the way they see the world. But there's a question that Dr. Dane here asks, and he says, what if the wrongness of you is the rightness of you? I.e., what if those quirky things about you that you grew up with, your parents are like, oh God, can you just kind of tone it down a little bit? Can you just not be quite so, that kind of line of thought? What if the wrongness of you is the rightness of you? As Uranus comes into this part of your chart, which I see the 7th house as a projection screen, this is you, I think, projecting your need for freedom to allow those parts of you that you've hidden away to come out and to just be really totally liberated. So I think this is going hand in hand with your own opening. I love this. This is a really interesting time. So I feel like I've chatted quite a bit about this energy. And I do see this as a really opening kind of situation for you in the next 2 weeks. What I want to do is quickly answer these 3 questions. So how are you shattering your own limits right now? I would say, I would say you might need to kind of let people off the hook. I think if you allow people off the hook a little bit right now, you'll find that you are feeling freer, and that will, I think, blow your mind. You know, I think it's there's a kind of funny thing with Sagittarians, and I have my son in Sagittarius. They're really quite capable, and also really quite positive. And so if they want to do something, they just kind of do it. And I think they're quite direct, and sometimes they're known for putting their foot in things, and kind of, they sound a little bit critical sometimes. They sound like they call you out. It's just that they're so honest and upright. They just go, oh, why did you do that? That's a bit odd. And it might take people by surprise. I think if you could let people off the hook a little bit, maybe not kind of hone in on that weirdness that has come up, that thing that surprised you. Just give them a moment before so they get a chance to react. I think, with Uranus coming into this part of the chart, your tendency, or our tendency, to identify what's gone wrong really, really quickly, and to be curious about it, which is a real sort of Sagittarius thing. I think allow your curiosity just like a day off. Give yourself a little bit of a break of asking these questions, so that the people around you can come to you with what they want to share with you. I think that would really open things up in a powerful way. That would leave them feeling a lot freer. And also, there's some things that you ask about that you just don't need to know about. You really don't, because really you're onto your own thing anyway. So that's my first thing that I think could really transform your world, actually, quite quickly. The next thing, how can you make empowered choices at this time? I think with Jupiter coming into this part of your chart, and this new moon highlighting your family relationships and the ancestral relationships, I think there is a need for softness, and I think there is a need for you to remember where you belong and to have this kind of sense of nostalgia. It doesn't mean to say you have to move home. It doesn't mean to say that you need to sort of accept full guilt and full responsibility for everything that's happened with your family. It's not to say your family's not done terrible things and you haven't done terrible things. Like we all have our stuff. We all have our patterns. But I think if you were able to make decisions from this place of trust and openness, and just feeling that there is a grounding of trust. If you like the idea of forgiveness, like you're giving something ahead of time, you're putting your energy first. You're taking that risk to put your energy, your love, your kindness first, without anything reciprocated. I really see that feeling of forgiveness, that I want to call it fortrustness. If you can come into a place of being optimistic and trusting before you have any reason to trust, I think that's going to transform your relationships. And I think that choice is going to open up your relationships with everyone in a really beautiful way, really, truly. And how are you building foundations for a bit brighter future? Do you know what? I really don't think you even need to answer this question right now, because I just think the changes that are going on between you and your relationships is also about you changing your relationship to yourself. Like this full moon in Capricorn, yeah, it could really stir things up in terms of how you earn money, but I think there's a much deeper meaning here. It's about your self-esteem. I actually think when you're going for openness and connection, and going into this territory of creating as much freedom or like possible space for your partner and your family in, so that they don't feel like penned in with ideas of past guilt, or they have to be forgiven, or they have to be sorry, or this, that, and the other. When you kind of take that emotional context out for people. I think it's going to transform you so much so that your foundations for a brighter future are already there. So I feel like I need to leave that there. My final thoughts then, Sagittarius, and this is quite a long one, isn't it? If you like the way I do this and you like my mannerisms and stuff, and you would like a bit more, I've got a membership that I run all the time. Each time I release these videos on a new moon and a full moon, there are a love version of it and also a money and destiny version of it. So you get four forecasts every month from me. I also do a daily 5, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday and Friday forecast as well for the day ahead. I also do not one, but 2 complimentary Zoom hangouts with the community where we meet up. I'm hoping to do different time zones soon as it grows, but right now it's more of a British time zone, but I've set it so that more people can come. But we hang out, we have a kind of subject, we bring our charts, we bring our openness, and we chat, and we're learning from each other. And it's I feel really uplifted when I have these sessions. It's great. Right now we've got Whitney Mullings, a beautiful shaman who leads us in new and full moon ceremonies. We had one last night. I had a lovely experience. So there's loads of different ways of relating. And if you are feeling the vibe that I've got right now, and you're feeling into that trust, then you might find it nice to come into this community. It's really cozy and there's space for you. So if that sounds about right for you, then just check out the links below and come and join us. Also, there's a new WhatsApp service that's launched called Astronex. And if you'd like to try it out, there's also a link in the description fields. If you click there, you get 5 free goes. So yeah, enjoy this. Have a fantastic 2 weeks. And if I can be of help, you know where I am. Lots and lots of love to you. Bye for now.